Ever imagined going from like singing in mall food courts to owning 14 Burger Kings?
Wow.
And on top of that, having like more Billboard hits than Elvis.
It's a not your typical career path.
Seriously. And that's just like scratching the surface when it comes to Chris Brown, right?
Right.
You guys wanted to know more about his journey and what he thinks about the music industry and how he balances being a dad with being famous.
Yeah.
So we went deep into this interview he did with Shannon Sharp on his YouTube channel, Club Shay.
Shannon Sharp, the former NFL player.
Yeah, the tight end. Yeah, he's a commentator now.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we took out all the most interesting parts for you, everything from like his early days all the way to his thoughts on AI and music.
Yeah, that's a wide range. I'm excited to hear this.
Get ready for some serious aha moments. All right, so let's start with his early days, his hustle. It's really something how his music career like started way before he got famous. We're talking like high school basketball games and secret recording sessions, even like taking these overnight bus trips to studios all the way in Harlem.
Oh, wow. Overnight bus trips. That's dedication.
Can you imagine like, young Chris Brown fresh off the court, hopping on a Greyhound to go chase his music dream in a totally different state?
That's wild. I wonder if he ever even slept on those bus rides.
He probably was writing lyrics. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But it really shows his drive,
Yeah.
And speaking of drive, like this guy was so confident in his talent that he actually turned down a record deal from Def Jam when he was just 14.
Wait, he turned down Def Jam. Why would he do that? Was it a bad deal or something?
It was. It wasn't really about the deal itself. It was more about like his principles. You know, the executive wouldn't even talk to his mother, and for Chris Brown, that was a deal breaker.
He wouldn't talk to his mom. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's disrespectful.
Yeah, he knew what he was worth.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to let anyone take advantage of him, not even at that age.
Right, right.
It's a big lesson about like, knowing your value and having a strong support system.
Yeah.
Especially in an industry like music, which can be really tough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You need people you can trust.
It was almost like he was saying, you don't respect my family, you don't respect me.
Exactly, yeah.
And that respect thing, it comes up a lot in his career, actually. He talks about how important mentorship is. And he says Tina Davis, who was his manager at the time, was like super important in helping him develop.
Oh, cool. What does she teach him?
Like she taught him everything from how to deal with the media to how to have a presence on stage.
Wow.
He says she helped him, navigate the industry and really find his own unique style.
So she was like a mentor to him?
Yeah, definitely. It makes you think about like, who are the people who've really shaped your path, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like who are some of your biggest mentors?
Well, I've been fortunate to have mentors who taught me to, think critically, to dig deeper and not just settle for easy answers,
That's awesome. And speaking of digging deeper, Chris Brown, he actually honed his performance skills in a pretty unexpected way. He used to sing in mall food courts.
Wait, seriously? Mall food courts?
Yeah, to attract girls.
That's funny.
But think about it, like that fearlessness, right? Putting himself out there, that translates to captivating audiences all over the world.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, he's considered one of the greatest performers of all time.
He really is amazing on stage.
Yeah. And those food court gigs, they were probably like a really good training ground for him. Like it reminds me of how comedians, they start out telling jokes in those small dive bars.
Right. It's like practice.
Yeah, exactly. But in this case, it was R&B in the middle of a Sparrow.
That's a great analogy.
And this dedication to his craft, it's a big part of his story. For example, he became one of the youngest artists to actually own his masters.
Wow. How old was he?
Only 29.
That's really young to own your masters.
Yeah, it's a big deal for any artist, but especially for Black artists.
I can see why that would be significant.
It's more than just, being financially independent, right?
It is. Owning your masters is about control. It's about legacy. It means you have the final say in how your music gets used and how you profit from it.
Right.
Historically, a lot of Black artists, they were denied that ownership, and that limited their control over their music and their ability to build wealth.
So for Chris Brown, it's a statement. It's like he's saying, I'm in control of my art, my career, and my future.
Exactly.
And his business smarts that go beyond music, too.
Yeah.
Did you know that he reportedly owns 14 Burger King
Mm.
franchises?
14 Burger Kings. No way. I never would have pictured him as a fast food mogul.
Seriously. I wonder if he ever, like, jumps behind the counter and flips some Whoppers himself.
Yeah. Maybe he's a secret Whopper recipe.
Maybe, maybe. But on a serious note, like, that just shows, he's got a strategic mind. He's not just relying on music for his income. He's diversifying, building a strong financial foundation.
Right.
It's a good reminder for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Like, we may not be Grammy-winning artists,
Sure.
but thinking about, different income streams and planning for our financial future, those are things we can all apply to our lives.
Definitely.
Now, beyond, the music and the business, Chris Brown is also a father.
Yeah.
And he's pretty open about, like, the joys and the challenges of raising his kids. It's where we see a different side of him,
Yeah.
Not just the superstar, but the dad who's, trying to figure things out like the rest of us. He even talks about how his own upbringing has influenced how he's raising his kids.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he talks about wanting to, like, instill good values in his kids and teach them the importance of hard work, even though their upbringing is so different from his.
I see.
He wants to give them the support and guidance that he maybe didn't always have.
Makes sense.
Yeah, he's breaking the cycle, using his own experiences, both good and bad, to guide his children. And speaking of guiding the next generation, he also mentored jockeys early in his career.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He shared his knowledge, his experience to help him succeed.
That's awesome.
It's a really great example of, like, paying it forward, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing his position as a role model. He's using his platform to support other artists.
That's inspiring. What are your thoughts on that, on that mentoring aspect?
It's great to see him uplifting others. Success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about helping others climb that ladder, too. It makes me think, like, how can we all, play a role in mentoring and supporting those who are coming up in our own fields?
That's a really good question.
So now, in addition to, like, his personal journey, Chris Brown also shares some pretty strong opinions about the music industry itself. Everything from the Grammys to state of IB to even the rise of AI in music.
Oh, this is where it gets juicy.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back at all.
I bet.
And his opinions really spark some important conversations about how the music landscape is changing.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for example, he questions how relevant some award shows even are today, especially the Grammys.
Interesting. What does he say about the Grammys?
He feels like maybe they're not really reflecting what people are listening to or the trends that are happening right now.
Like they're kind of out of touch?
Yeah, like maybe a little behind the times.
Yeah, I can see that.
And he's not alone in thinking that way. A lot of artists and people in the industry have voiced similar concerns. They feel like there's a disconnect between these award shows and what audiences are actually connecting with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He even suggests that there might be other things besides just, musical taste that are influencing these awards.
Oh, like what?
Like maybe industry politics or even personal biases.
That makes you think.
It definitely makes you wonder about how those decisions are really being made, right?
Right.
He also touches on this concept of cancel culture, which is, it's a really complex and often misunderstood idea.
Yeah, what is cancel culture exactly?
It's basically when people withdraw their support for a public figure or a company after they've done or said something that's seen as, offensive or objectionable.
Okay.
It can be a way to hold people accountable, but it also brings up questions about, like, forgiveness and redemption.
Right.
Chris Brown is concerned that society's become too sensitive, that it's hard to have, like, open and honest conversations without being afraid of getting backlash.
That's interesting.
He worries that this kind of environment is preventing real dialogue and stopping people from sharing different points of view.
I see.
I think what he's getting at is this tension between accountability and freedom of expression.
Right.
We want to have a society where people are responsible for what they do, but we also don't want to create a place where everyone's afraid to speak their minds.
It's a tough balance.
It is, yeah. And it's clear that Chris Brown feels like, that balance has tipped too far in one direction.
Interesting.
He feels like sometimes good intentions get lost in this rush to judge and condemn people.
Yeah. I can see his point.
And this goes back to his own experiences, too. He's been in the public eye for a long time
Mm-hmm.
and has faced a lot of criticism and scrutiny. He feels that some of that criticism hasn't been fair
Okay.
or hasn't been proportional to his actions.
Interesting.
He even talks about double standards,
Oh, like what?
like how other artists who've made similar mistakes haven't faced the same level of backlash or consequences.
Hmm. That's a complex issue.
It is. There's no easy answer.
Excellent.
But it makes you think about how we as a society approach forgiveness and redemption.
Right.
How do we hold people accountable while also giving them space to grow and change?
That's a great question.
It's a conversation that we need to have.
Definitely.
And despite all the challenges he's faced, Chris Brown is still really passionate about music,
Yeah.
especially R&B. He feels like the genre isn't getting the recognition it deserves.
I see.
Especially with shows like 106 in Park going off the air, which used to showcase a lot of different artists.
Yeah, I missed that show.
It was such a cultural touchdown. You know,
It was.
it wasn't just about music videos. It was a place to discover new artists,
Mm-hmm.
see live performances, and get a sense of like what was happening in the culture.
Definitely.
It was a launching pad for so many R&B and hip hop artists.
It was.
And its absence is definitely felt, especially now that streaming services are so dominant.
Yeah.
It can be a lot harder for new artists to break through all the noise now.
It's true.
It's almost like a paradox, right? More access, but also more competition.
Right.
It makes me think about how we can create new spaces and platforms for emerging artists to be seen and heard, especially in genres like R&B, which might not have the same mainstream visibility as they used to.
That's a great point.
Yeah. It's a question the whole music industry is grappling with right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that Chris Brown is clearly passionate about. He's a huge advocate for R&B.
Yeah.
He believes it deserves a bigger stage and more opportunities for artists to really thrive.
Good for him.
It's great that he's using his platform to amplify these voices and push for change.
Definitely.
And it's not just R&B that he's thinking about. He also gets into like artificial intelligence and how it's impacting music.
Oh.
Yeah, he acknowledges like the amazing things AI can do, like how it can replicate voices
Right.
and even compose whole songs.
Wow.
He's even thinking about the business side of things. Like, will artists start licensing their voices to be used in AI-generated music?
That's crazy to think about.
It's pretty mind-blowing. Imagine a world where like anyone can create a hit song with your favorite artist's voice.
Yeah.
Without them even setting foot in a recording studio.
Oh.
It could totally change the industry.
It could.
But while he sees the potential and the innovation,
Yeah.
he also has concerns about the downsides.
Oh, like what?
He's worried that relying too much on AI could devalue like the human element of music, the raw talent, the emotional depth that often drives creation.
Yeah.
Music is more than just notes and rhythms, right?
Yes.
It's about expression, emotion, and that connection between the artist and the listener.
Mm-hmm.
Can AI really capture that?
That's a great question. I don't know.
It's a question a lot of people are debating right now. Some see AI as like this tool to enhance human creativity,
Yeah.
while others are worried that it might actually replace human artists altogether.
That's scary.
It's almost like we're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
How do we embrace the possibilities of AI
Right.
while also preserving the artistry and the authenticity that make music so powerful?
Oh, right.
Right.
Right. It's something to think about.
It's a conversation that's just getting started, and it's one that we need to have thoughtfully, especially as technology keeps evolving.
Yeah.
Chris Brown's willingness to bring these issues up just shows that he's not just a talented artist, he's also someone who's really thinking about the industry and its future.
Definitely.
He's not afraid to ask the tough questions
Mhm.
and challenge how things are done.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him such a fascinating figure. Now, before we go to the final part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier, his business ventures outside of music.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Burger Kings.
Yeah, 14 Burger King franchises is pretty impressive.
It is.
It shows a different kind of hustle, you know, a long-term vision that goes beyond just performing.
Right.
It's a reminder that, like, success in one area doesn't have to limit you. Chris Brown's entrepreneurial spirit and his willingness to explore different things are really inspiring.
They are.
It also suggests that he's got a smart financial strategy, you know,
Yeah.
diversifying his income streams, creating a legacy that lasts beyond just his music career.
Right, right.
Makes you wonder if he'll ever open a Chris Brown's Burgers chain.
That would be cool.
Maybe a signature run-it burger
Yeah.
with like spicy sriracha mayo.
Oh, that sounds good.
Right. But for now, let's go back to his roots. the very beginning of his journey.
Okay.
His story is really a testament to the power of believing in yourself, even when other people doubt you.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he was recording music in secret, playing high school basketball,
Yeah.
even taking those overnight bus trips to New York City to chase his dream.
That's dedication.
It's wild to think about that level of commitment at such a young age. Like, juggling school, sports, and a music career.
Yeah.
It sounds exhausting.
It does.
It really speaks to his dedication. You know, he had this drive, this fire inside him that pushed him to go after his passion,
Mm-hmm.
Even if it meant missing out on sleep or normal teenage stuff.
Right.
And then let's not forget, he turned down that record deal from Def Jam because the exec wouldn't talk to his mom.
Yeah, that was a power move.
That takes guts, especially for a young artist who's trying to break into the industry.
Absolutely.
It shows that he had a strong sense of self-worth and loyalty to his family.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going to compromise his values,
Right.
even for a shot at fame.
Right.
He understood that success on his own terms was more important than success at any cost.
Definitely.
Like a powerful message for all of us.
Yeah.
Knowing your value, having a support system, and not being afraid to walk away from opportunities that don't align with your principles. It's about betting on yourself, even when other people might not see your vision.
I love that.
And that confidence shows in everything he does.
Yeah.
His music, his business ventures.
It does.
And then there's that crazy story about his early encounter with Diddy.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
He auditioned for him as a teenager and got rejected.
Oh, no.
Can you imagine how discouraging that must have been?
Yeah.
To have someone like Diddy, a music icon, tell you you're not good enough?
That would be tough.
It could have shattered his dreams.
Or could have.
But instead of letting that define him, he used it as motivation.
Oh.
He channeled that disappointment into determination. He worked even harder to improve his skills and prove himself.
That's amazing.
It reminds us that setbacks and rejections are a part of life, especially in creative fields.
Yeah, you're going to face rejection.
But what sets successful people apart is their ability to bounce back,
Right.
learn from those experiences, and come back stronger.
So true.
And Chris Brown's journey is full of those comeback moments.
Yeah.
Think about those early days. Singing in those mall food courts.
Uh-huh, yeah.
It might seem insignificant, but it shows his willingness to put himself out there, to practice his craft anywhere,
Yeah,
and connect with people through his music.
absolutely.
It's a great example of how even small, unconventional opportunities can be valuable learning experience.
Yeah, you never know where they might lead.
It's about embracing those early stages of development and using them to build your confidence and refine your skills. You never know where those first steps will take you.
That's a great message.
And speaking of unexpected journeys, who would have predicted that the kid singing in mall food courts would one day become a global superstar, a savvy entrepreneur, and a voice that's shaping the future of music?
It's an amazing story.
Chris Brown's journey is full of twists and turns, highs and lows. And through it all, he's stayed true to himself, growing as an artist and as a person.
He has.
His willingness to be open about his experiences, both the good and the bad, makes him relatable, even with all his success.
It does.
He's not afraid to show his vulnerability, to admit his mistakes, and to share his insights. And it's that authenticity that connects with his fans and keeps them coming back for more.
I agree. Authenticity is so important.
So as we wrap up the first part of our deep dive into the world of Chris Brown, what have we learned? It's a story about talent, dedication, resilience, and the power of believing in yourself.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that success isn't a straight line. It's often messy and unpredictable.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey, learning from your experiences, and staying true to your vision even when you face challenges and setbacks. And ultimately, it's about using your platform, your voice, and your influence to make a positive impact on the world.
I love that.
So what seemingly impossible dream are you capable of achieving if you combine talent with unwavering dedication? Think about that. And be sure to share your thoughts on Chris Brown's journey and insights with us on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you in part 2. So we were just talking about how Chris Brown is open to performing at the Grammys, even though he's not a huge fan of the institution itself. It shows a certain maturity, right? A focus on what really matters to him, which is connecting with his fans through music.
Exactly, yeah. He's not letting, ego or past conflicts get in the way of his passion.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Grammys, he He does talk about his reaction to not winning in the R&B category this year.
Yeah, right.
It was a big deal.
It was.
He's honest about, being frustrated at first, but he also says that he doesn't want to dwell on negativity or play the victim. It sounds like he understands that. Like, awards are nice, but they don't define him or the impact of his music.
Yeah, that's a healthy perspective.
It is.
He even hints that maybe there's a generational gap within the people who give out these awards. Like maybe their tastes just don't line up with what's popular or impactful right now.
Right. It's a good point. Like, how do these institutions stay relevant? How do they make sure they're representing the different voices and genres that are shaping music today?
It's a tough question. For any institution that's been around for a long time, how do they evolve with the times? And Chris Brown is, whether he means to or not, is really pushing that conversation forward.
He is, yeah.
He also brings up this really sensitive topic that gets debated a lot, cancel culture.
Cancel culture. Yeah, it's a tricky one.
It is.
Basically, it's the idea of like withdrawing your support for someone, usually a public figure, after they've done or said something offensive.
Right.
It can be a powerful tool for holding people accountable.
Yeah.
But it also raises questions about, like, forgiveness and second chances.
Right.
Chris Brown is concerned that we've become, like, a hypersensitive society. And that it's hard to have real, honest conversations without being afraid of getting backlash.
That's a good point.
I think he's highlighting that tension between wanting to hold people accountable and wanting to protect free speech.
Right, wanting people to be able to express themselves.
Exactly. We want to create a society where people are responsible for their actions, but we also don't want to stifle people's ability to speak their minds.
That's a hard balance to strike.
It is, yeah.
And Chris Brown definitely feels like that balance has shifted too far in one direction.
Interesting.
He feels like sometimes, good intentions get overshadowed by this quickness to judge and condemn people.
Yeah, I can see his point.
And this relates to his own experiences too, right? He's been in the spotlight for so long, and he's faced a lot of criticism.
Yes.
He feels like some of that criticism has been unfair or maybe overblown.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He even talks about this idea of double standards, how other artists have made similar mistakes but haven't received the same level of backlash. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's a complicated issue, and there's no easy answer. But it does make you think about how we approach forgiveness and redemption as a society.
It does.
How do we hold people accountable while also giving them space to grow and change?
Right.
It's a conversation we need to keep having.
It is.
And even with all the challenges he's faced, Chris Brown is still so passionate about music, especially R&B.
He is.
He feels like the genre isn't getting the attention it deserves.
Okay.
Especially with shows like, 106 and Park going off the air.
Yeah, that was a great show for R&B and hip-hop.
It was, wasn't it? It wasn't just about music videos. It was a place to discover new artists, see live performances, and it really captured what was happening in the culture.
It was a moment.
It was, yeah, and its absence is definitely felt, especially now that streaming services are so huge.
Right.
It's harder for new artists to break through all the noise these days.
It is. You're competing with everyone.
It's like this weird paradox, more access, but also more competition.
Yeah.
It makes me think, like, how can we create new spaces, new platforms for these artists to be seen and heard, especially in genres like R&B that might not have the same mainstream visibility anymore.
Right. That's a great question.
It's a challenge for the whole industry, and it's something that Chris Brown cares about deeply.
He does.
He's a real advocate for R&B, and he believes it deserves more attention and more opportunities for its artists.
Good for him.
It's awesome that he's using his platform to speak up for these artists and push for change.
Yeah, he's using his voice.
And it's not just R&B that he's thinking about.
Oh, what else?
He also talks about artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow.
And how it's impacting the music industry.
AI in music, that's interesting.
It is. He acknowledges how amazing AI is, like how it can replicate voices.
Right.
And even compose whole songs.
That's crazy.
It is. He's even like thinking about the business implications, like, will artists start licensing their voices to be used in AI music?
That's mind-blowing.
Right. Imagine a world where, like, anyone can create a hit song with your favorite artist's voice.
Yeah.
Without them ever going into a studio.
Yeah.
It could completely change the industry as we know it.
It could.
But while he sees the potential, He also expresses some concerns.
Oh, yeah. Like, what are his concerns?
He's worried that if we rely too much on AI,
Yeah.
it could actually devalue the human element of music.
Okay.
Like the raw talent.
Yeah.
The emotion that goes into creating music.
The heart. Yeah.
Right. Music is more than just notes and rhythm.
Exactly.
It's about expression. It's about emotion. It's about connecting with the listener.
Right.
Can AI really capture those things?
That's the big question.
It is, and it's something a lot of people are talking about right now. Some see AI as a tool, to help human creativity,
Right.
but others worry that it might actually replace human artists altogether.
That would be sad.
It would be. It's like we're at a crossroads. How do we use AI's power while also protecting what makes music so special, that human touch?
That's the challenge.
It is, and it's a conversation that's just starting, and it's one we need to have as technology keeps advancing.
Absolutely.
The fact that Chris Brown is bringing up these issues, it shows that he's not just a talented artist, but he's also thinking deeply about the future of music.
Right.
He's not afraid to ask tough questions and challenge the way things are.
He's a thinker.
He is, and that's what makes him so fascinating.
It does.
Now, before we go to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, his business ventures outside of music.
Oh, yeah. Those Burger Kings.
14 Burger King franchises. That's impressive.
It is.
Shows a different side of him, a long-term vision that goes beyond just performing.
Right.
It's a reminder that success in one area doesn't have to limit you. Chris Brown's entrepreneurial spirit
Right.
and his willingness to try different things, it's inspiring.
Right.
It also makes you think he's got a smart financial plan.
Yeah.
Diversifying his income, building something
Right.
that will last beyond his music.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder if he'll ever open a Chris Brown's Burgers chain.
Ha ha. That would be fun.
Right. With a signature rennet burger, maybe some spicy sriracha mayo.
That sounds delicious.
Right. But for now, let's go back to his roots.
Okay.
The very beginning.
To the start.
His story is really about believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Even when other people doubt you. Remember, he was recording music in secret, playing high school basketball.
Yeah.
Taking those overnight bus trips to New York City to chase his dream.
Wow. Those were the early days.
I know. It's wild to think about that commitment, that young,
Yeah.
juggling school, sports, a music career.
It's a lot.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It is.
And don't forget, he turned down that Def Jam record deal.
Oh, yeah.
Because the executive wouldn't talk to his mom.
Right.
That takes serious guts.
Yeah.
Especially for a young artist who's trying to break in.
Absolutely.
It shows how much he valued himself
Mm-hmm.
and his family.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to compromise his values,
Right.
even for a shot at fame.
Even for a jazz.
He knew that success on his own terms was more important than success at any cost.
That's a great lesson.
It is, and it's something we can all learn from. Knowing your worth, having a good support system,
Yeah.
and not being afraid to walk away from things that don't align with your values.
Right.
It's about betting on yourself, even when others don't get it.
It's about believing in yourself.
Exactly, and that confidence, it shines through in everything he does, his music, his businesses.
It does.
And then there's that incredible story about his encounter with Diddy early on.
Oh, I forgot about that. What happened?
He auditioned for Diddy when he was a teenager
Oh, wow.
and got rejected.
Oh, no.
Can you imagine how tough that must have been?
Yeah.
To have someone like Diddy, a legend, tell you you're not good enough?
That would be heartbreaking.
It could have crushed his dreams.
It could have.
But instead of letting it defeat him, he used it as fuel.
Wow.
He turned that disappointment into determination, worked even harder to prove himself.
That's amazing.
It's a great reminder that setbacks are part of life,
They are.
especially in creative fields.
Yeah.
What matters is how you bounce back, how you learn from those experiences and come back stronger.
So true.
And Chris Brown's journey is full of those comebacks.
It is.
Think about those early days singing in the mall food courts.
Haha.
It might seem like a small thing, but it shows he was willing to put himself out there,
Yeah.
hone his craft, connect with people.
It all starts somewhere.
It does, and it's a great example that even unconventional opportunities can be valuable.
Yeah, those early experiences.
It's about embracing those early stages, and using them to build confidence, refine your skills. You never know where those first steps will lead. And speaking of unexpected journeys, who would have guessed that kid singing in mall food courts would one day be a global superstar, a savvy entrepreneur, and someone who's shaping the future of music?
It's an incredible story.
Chris Brown's story is full of twists and turns, highs and lows.
It is.
And through it all, he's stayed true to himself, evolving as an artist and a person.
Yeah, he seems like a genuine guy.
He does. And his willingness to be open about everything, the good and the bad, it makes him relatable.
It does.
Even with all the success.
Right.
He's not afraid to show vulnerability, admit his mistakes, share what he's learned.
That's real.
And it's that authenticity that resonates with people that keeps them coming back.
Authenticity is powerful.
It is. So as we wrap up this second part of our deep dive into Chris Brown, what's the takeaway?
What do we learn?
It's a story about talent, dedication, resilience, and believing in yourself.
It is.
It's a reminder that success isn't always a straight line. It's often messy and unpredictable.
Right. It's a journey.
It is. It's about embracing that journey, learning from your experiences, and staying true to your vision, even when things get tough.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's about using your platform, your voice, to make a positive impact.
I love that.
So what seemingly impossible dream are you capable of achieving if you combine your talent with that kind of unwavering dedication? Think about that.
That's a great question.
And be sure to share your thoughts on Chris Brown's journey with us on social media. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, let's keep the conversation going. So we were just talking about Chris Brown's business ventures.
Yeah, those Burger Kings, it's pretty amazing.
It's 14 of them. It really shows you, he's thinking long-term beyond music.
Right, it's not just about the spotlight for him.
It's like he's building an empire, a legacy that goes beyond just being a performer.
And it's smart, right? Diversifying his income, creating something that'll last.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for all of us. Think about your future. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly, even if that basket is, a Grammy Award.
Exactly. But for now, let's go back to where it all began, his roots.
Okay, back to the beginning.
His story is really about believing in yourself even when others don't.
It is. It's about that self-belief, that inner drive.
Remember, he was recording music in secret, playing high school basketball, taking those overnight bus trips to New York.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that level of dedication at such a young age.
He had this fire in him, this passion that just wouldn't quit.
And he had the guts to turn down that Def Jam deal.
Oh, yeah. That was a big moment.
Because the executive wouldn't even talk to his mom.
Right. It was about respect.
It was, and it showed that he wasn't willing to compromise his values, even for a chance at stardom.
He knew his worth.
He did, and he understood that success on his own terms was more valuable than success at any cost.
That's powerful.
It is, and it's a lesson for all of us. Knowing your value, having a strong support system, and not being afraid to walk away from something that doesn't feel right.
Right, trust your gut.
Exactly, bet on yourself, even when others don't see your vision.
And then there's that story about his encounter with Diddy.
Oh yeah, that was early in his career, right?
Yeah, he auditioned for Diddy as a teenager and got rejected.
Can you imagine getting rejected by Diddy, a music legend?
That must have been tough.
It would have been easy to give up, to think maybe I'm not good enough.
But he didn't.
He didn't. He used that rejection as fuel.
It's like he turned that setback into motivation.
He did. He channeled that disappointment into working even harder to prove himself.
It shows real resilience.
It does, and it's a reminder that setbacks are part of the journey. What matters is how you respond, how you bounce back.
How you learn from those experiences.
Exactly, and Chris Brown's journey is full of those moments, those comebacks.
It is, like those early days singing in the mall food courts.
Right. It might seem small, but it shows his willingness to put in the work, to hone his craft anywhere.
To connect with people, even in a food court.
Exactly. It's about embracing those early stages, those unconventional opportunities.
They're all stepping stones.
They are, and you never know where they might lead.
And who would have thought that kid in the food court would become a global icon, a successful businessman, someone who's pushing the music industry forward?
It's an amazing story, full of twists and turns.
Highs and lows.
And through it all, he stayed true to himself, evolving as an artist and a person.
He's been open about his struggles, his mistakes.
And that honesty, that vulnerability makes him relatable, even with all his success.
People connect with that authenticity.
They do. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Chris Brown, what have we learned?
It's a story about talent, dedication, resilience, and the importance of believing in yourself.
It's a reminder that success isn't always a straight line. It's about the journey, the ups and downs.
The unexpected turns.
And it's about embracing those challenges, learning from them, staying true to your vision.
And using your platform to make a difference.
Exactly. So, what's that seemingly impossible dream that you're capable of achieving? What can you accomplish when you combine your talents with that unwavering dedication? Think about it.
It's a question worth asking.
It is.
Yeah.
And we want to hear your thoughts on Chris Brown's journey, his insights. Connect with us on social media. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until